Hi everyone. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I am just getting started due to some technical difficulties. Thank you all for hanging in, for those of you who did. And welcome to the very first Work Mom Show. My name is Sedef Bukhataman, and I am the principal and founder at Inspire People. And I'm also known to many across the world as Work Mom. And that comes from a little bit about my background, which I will tell you about first just to get us all started, seeing as many of you don't know who I am and why I'm doing this. And I think I owe you a little bit of an explanation. So I'll start off at the beginning. I studied liberal arts and English literature at university. I know, super relevant in lots of places, but it actually was. And I graduated in 1992. I know there's no way I could possibly be that old and look this young, but there you have it. And since then, I've been working in primarily human resources, developing and leading programs that are designed to attract, assess, train emerging talent. And what I mean by that are folks that are just out of university, maybe applying for their first job, internship, or are in their first sort of 3 to 5 years of employment. So doing that, I've had the fantastic opportunity to work for some companies across the globe, large and small, and I am often tasked with this amazing challenge of finding ways to hire and engage and assess folks who are a lot smarter than me in a lot of really interesting areas. But in doing that, I sort of came across a bit of a consistency across the board, regardless of sort of where you are in your career. Many people don't really have the basic skills they need to stand out and be confident in a job search type of process. And a lot of the skills that we use in the job search are skills that we use in other areas of our lives, and so it's just about making some of those connections. So one thing I do want to clarify is I'm here to help answer your questions, provide sort of the recruiter perspective on the job search process. I'm not here to help you game the system. There's really no way to game the system. It's just sort of one of those things where each company is unique, their values, what they're looking for in people, even though they may have similar roles, how they position them are different. And more importantly, you are unique. You know, what you're after from your career is going to evolve over time, but the things that you find joy in your work in, the things that really motivate you to do amazing work are unique to you as well. So your job search is going to be unique to you as well. So there's no way to game the system. I'm really sorry as half of you drop off of the live stream right now. But for those of you who hung on, I am here doing this. And the what's in it for me is I used to go out on university campuses and give these types of sessions to students, sort of, ask me anything. I'm a recruiter. What do you want to know? Here's why we ask you those questions on those applications, and here's why these sorts of things come up in interviews. And I used to find that the students used to get a lot out of it, but I get a lot out of it too, because it helps me understand the things that are top of mind for job seekers, so I can develop programs for my customers and clients that engage talent that they're looking to hire in the right way with the right messaging whenever possible. So it's win-win for everyone. So this show is about you. I wanted to take advantage of sort of the live aspect. So I want you to feel comfortable to ask questions. The live chat is open and available to you. I figured since this was the first show that I should probably come with a topic, and that's probably what I'll do most times, is have a topic to yammer on about, to provide a little bit of advice, and you guys can ask questions. You don't have to ask questions about today's topic, which is Networking 101, but the topic is in general stuff about getting you hired. So feel free to ask questions either about the topic that we're going to discuss today or the topic that you have sort of burning in your mind. So as I mentioned, today's topic is Networking 101. I just want to provide you sort of a few simple steps to help you build a framework for how you approach networking and how to get the most out of it. A lot of times I find people are a little bit overwhelmed by the idea of networking and sort of, it's one of those buzzwords that we all feel we should be doing, but nobody quite knows how to do it or get something out of it. I know myself as a recruiter, I receive lots of emails from folks saying, hey, tell me about your company, and with nothing more added to that. And those don't really incite people or inspire people to respond. So I just want to give you a few tips today. We're going to go for 5 steps to networking. So before we get started, I do want to just share a little bit of my own story here, just to give you an underlying reason for why networking is important and what you can get out of it. When you look at what you can get out of networking, it's sort of twofold. Number one, you're able to get a lot of learning. It's an investigative sort of approach. You're almost interviewing the individuals you're networking with to find out a little bit more about the job that they do, as well as the environment that they do it in. And that will help you at any stage of your career while you're just starting out and thinking through, what do I want to do? A lot that can be pretty challenging. We're going to talk about that today. But helping you sort of build the picture of what your career is going to look like, you can get a lot of learning from networking. The other part is obviously generating awareness. When you are networking with someone, you're leaving an impression about who you are. And the types of questions you ask them really go a long way in developing a positive impression. So it's twofold, investigation and learning and generating awareness. And how that's impacted me in my career is, I'll tell you, I have been working since 1992, and I have never gotten a job that I directly applied to. And now, before all of the rest of you drop off the live stream, I'll tell you what that means. My first opportunity was via a friend of mine who was working while I was going to university. She was kind enough to provide me an opportunity into a career path that I really enjoyed. But subsequently, since then, all of the other jobs that I've received have either been a recommendation from someone who I've worked with in the past, who's had the opportunity to sort of see me in action, or through people who I've interviewed with or met at conferences or events where we've had an opportunity to discuss the subject matter. And many times, opportunities come to me before they even hit the marketplace. Sometimes, and I won't, break my arm patting myself on the back here, but sometimes opportunities have even been created around my skill set. So that can happen for you. That can be an onset of networking. That comes from developing your brand with individuals as you sort of reach out and make the first few steps into your career. Now, for those of you who are early in your career, networking is that much more important, because at this stage, it's really important that you demonstrate your potential and your focus and your passion for the type of work. The experience and the background and the achievements that you got to get you to the front door of looking for a job are fantastic. But that's all the stuff that got you there. What's going to get you to the next level and really launch you into your career is the network of professionals that you build who know what your brand is and who trust in that. Very similar to how we think about companies. So let's start with step number 1, as I get a little bit fidgety here, talking a lot with no questions in the chat. Come on, guys, ask me questions. All right. So step number 1 is the infamous, what do you want to do? Question. Now, I'll be honest, this is not easy, this step. It is probably the hardest step that you'll sort of take in your entire job search process. But it's a step that really no one can do for you, and it's something that will really set the tone and the platform and the foundation for everywhere that you go next. So let's try and break down this question to something a bit less Godzilla-like and a bit more manageable. What do you want to do? Well, first off, let's think about the time commitment that you want to provide. Are you looking for a full-time job? Are you looking for a part-time job? Are you maybe in the midst of a job change or still in school? So maybe you're looking for an apprenticeship or an internship of some sort. Or maybe you're looking for something a bit more flexible and you're after freelance and contract jobs. Maybe it's a combination of one or two of them. That's entirely possible depending upon where you are. So think through, obviously, build in your financial commitments to that and sort of what you're after at this point. So that's a piece of it. Great, you've got one piece of what you want to do done. I want a full-time job. Fantastic. Okay. So let's look at another piece of it. Where are you in your career? Are you looking for an entry-level job or internship? Are you looking for something that will sort of take you to the next step, maybe a junior to mid-level job? Are you looking for one more step past that, mid to senior? Wherever you are, start to focus in sort of the range of opportunities that you want to be going after, the level. So now you've got the time, now you've got the level. Here comes the tough one. I promise this is not going to be as difficult as it feels, but what do you want to do? What type of work is going to make you happy? What's going to be something that gets you excited to get out of bed every morning and go do that? Yeah, we all have bad days, but on the broader scheme of things, the people who are really getting something out of their career and are really successful are the ones who are really sort of getting a lot out of their profession as well as their personal lives, or found ways to integrate them. So that's an area that is going to be a little bit tough to answer for all of you in this question, but I want you to think about a couple of different areas as you do this. Sorry, I'm fidgeting around because I'm trying to make sure my notes don't fall down. Hi, live TV, no script. Okay, the things I want you to think about here is, start with your academics. It could be what you majored in college and thinking through the types of job opportunities that can come from there. Maybe you hated your major, but there were a few classes within there that you got really excited about. Fantastic. Focus on those. Think about the skills that are required to do what you enjoy about those particular academic subjects. Also, mesh in your hobbies, the stuff that you enjoy. Not every hobby has to be a physical sport activity. Hobbies can be, maybe you're a maker, maybe you're a builder, maybe you love gardening. There's something nurturing in that. And look for the skills that you have to have in order to be successful at your hobby, and start sort of keeping a list of those skills and those attributes that you have that you really enjoy and that sort of bring out your light. The other part that you want to sort of intersect into that is think about business sectors, business markets. You can approach this in many different ways. If you're not quite sure from an academic or hobby standpoint, then maybe from a market sector standpoint. I think fashion is fantastic. I think technology is a really interesting area, and break down that sector into the types of roles that are available there and the types of things that you could do. So as you're doing that and thinking through the what do you want to do, there's another piece of this that is really important with the whole networking thing, is where could you potentially do it? So what I'd like you to walk away from is sort of a list of companies where you're understanding some basic fundamentals about them. What does this company do? Does this sound cool to you, and why? What type of work could you do from day one? Just going in with the skills that you have today, where could you sort of launch from? And does that sound interesting to you? Why? And finally, what could you learn while you're there? Where can you stretch into? Well, I could start doing this work, but then I could learn this stuff, which is really interesting to me. Why? So it's almost like you're building a spreadsheet of companies. So you've decided sort of this is the area that I want to play in. So let's pick maybe 5 to 10 companies. Don't overwhelm yourself with like 500 companies. That's just going to, be too much work from the get-go and discourage you from moving on. So keep it a manageable list, but put together a list of 5 to 10 companies and just get a spreadsheet going. What do they do? What type of work could I do there? And what things could I learn there? And just keep notes for yourself on why you find that interesting. You'll use that in later conversations, but you're starting to build up sort of a database of information, if you will, about the type of work that you're enjoying. So that being said, when you walk away from step number 1, you should have a fairly clear idea and intention on what type of work you want to do. And don't stress yourself out by getting too specific with that. You can keep it broad. Something like, let's say you're interested in human resources like me. Well, human resources has training, development, onboarding, orientation, employee engagement, the whole world of talent acquisition, operations, reporting, compensation, benefits, and the list goes on and on throughout the ecosystem. So try and keep it a little bit open, especially while you're still trying to figure out what type of career path you want to go. For those of you who are already on a career path, I hope you went and got a snack during this period, because you are so far ahead of the game. But you still sit down and think through the company list. And while you're gathering that company list information, also make sure that you're gathering sort of information about how close they are to you. Does it fit within your range? Are you open to relocation? There's really no point in sort of stalking a company who's based in Massachusetts when you're in Chicago and you're not interested in moving. So try and sort of be realistic about the companies. If you get stuck, start with brands that operate in that space, or just operate in general, and see if they have an area that sort of fits the type of work that you want to do. I'll tell you, if I had sat down at the beginning of my career and been thoughtful about this, I probably would have found myself in human resources, but maybe after a much more painful journey. If it helps to sort of bring the picture of the sort of how I can bring some of those pieces together. So when I was younger, my first jobs were babysitting. I was camp counselor. I loved aspects of just sort of rallying the troops and being responsible for everyone, making sure they were happy, and sort of getting involved if there was a conflict, sort of settle things down. And when I got to university and studied literature, it wasn't so much about reading the books. They were really great books, but what I loved about it was analyzing not the words that were said, but the meaning behind them, and being able to sort of read between the lines and understand someone else's perspective separate from your own. I was lucky enough to start in human resources, but when you think about the attributes of human resources professionals, that's essentially what they do. They provide communication links, education links, support to employees, to business, and develop strategies around how to engage and inspire the workforce. So, those are how I could take my hobbies and my background and bring them into a business world, and try and think through sort of similar aspects for yourself. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking about this. I know it's a tough question. I know it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world to do for you, but I think it's something that once you get through that step, a lot of the rest of the job search process will get easier. So let's get to step number 2, since I am yammering away here. So step number 2 is really about making connections and building your foundational network. What I mean here is everyone has sort of a base network, what I call your inner circle. These are your friends, your family, folks that maybe you haven't worked with in the past, but you know really, really well. It takes a village. Be honest with them. Tell them that you're in the midst of a job search. You'd really appreciate it if they don't have LinkedIn profiles, if they could get them and get connected to people that they work with. Then you connect to them as well on all the various different platforms. What I'd love you to do is just really focus in on getting your social profiles up to date and getting connected to that inner circle of people. And you can stretch that a little bit further. Cousins, extended family, teachers who you have close relationships with, community club leaders that you have good relationships with. These are excellent people to build your base foundation with. You never know where opportunities come from, or who knows who. So this will help you sort of get that base foundation. Now, while you're doing that, make sure to follow the companies you're interested in, the ones that you picked in that first 5 or 10 list. Follow them on LinkedIn, Facebook, Glassdoor, Twitter, Instagram, Piazza Careers for those of you studying STEM degrees, career services for those of you who have access to career services at your universities, or alumni services for those of you who already graduated. Make sure that you're getting information about those companies, and while you're getting that information about those companies on these social profiles, you're going to start seeing names associated with those companies, either names that you're connected to via your inner circle, or names that you're connected to because you're following a company, or you've joined a club or group online that they're also a member of. And this will help making connections to these individuals later, joining those groups and clubs as well. When you follow these companies, you'll also see what they're pushing out in terms of their information, what their employees are excited about. And when you're taking a look at who's working for these companies, try and narrow in on the folks who are potentially working in the areas that you're working in. Click over, see who liked that post, how many of them are employees. You know, what you're doing here is a very light version of online stalking. And it's okay, I'm not condoning stalking in any way, but this is a way that you can source information about what the vibe is at that company and who are sort of the players there. So get that spreadsheet of companies back out and add a couple more columns to it. Add any sort of recent publications, events, information that's been going on at that company so you can begin to store information about them that's current. Grab the names. What platforms did you find them on? Who are they? What are they doing? And get their information from those platforms and make note of it, because that's going to be your contact list in a moment. And don't be shy about this. You know, we've all been at the early stages of our career. Everybody's been there. And if we haven't been sort of, you know, having a tough time of it, we definitely know somebody who has. So if you're upfront and honest with people that you're looking to make contacts, you're looking to join groups, you're looking to follow companies so you can learn more about making that first step in your career or the next step in your career, you're going to find that people are pretty open to helping out. So once you've got the spreadsheet updated with at least 1 to 3 contacts at each of these companies that you can reach out to, I also want you to make a couple of notes about their profiles, what you're seeing there. It could, anything in particular that you have related to them, it should be something that you highlight. Did you go to the same schools? Are members of the same clubs? Are they a dog lover and you're a dog lover? Whatever it might be. Now, obviously, the priority is on the more sort of professional information and less so the dog lover type information. But whatever you can find that's a commonality is something good to make note of. The next step from there, and I'm conscious we're at time, so I promise the rest of this is really quickly, goes really quickly. What I need you to do is really just update your resume and your social profiles, keeping in mind the type of work you want to do. Use the type of language that you're seeing as you're reading up more about these type of opportunities. We'll talk more about updating your resume in detail on another day. And if any of you want to send in your resumes to go through live, I would be happy to do that. And I promise no shaming is involved, just critical and helpful feedback. And just make sure your base platform is ready. For those of you on social media platforms already, get your privacy settings up to date. I can't stress this enough. I am part of the recruiter contingency that will not look at your social feeds in evaluating you as a candidate, but I'm in the minority, and it's better if you have sort of a professional and mature demeanor. So just make sure your privacy settings are up, and please turn on your voicemail and start answering your phone. When people call you back, it's really frustrating to not be able to at least leave a message. So that being said, you are sort of ready to make contact now. Now, I know this can feel a little bit nervous, but this is the stage where you really have everything you need to go forward. You know what you want to do. You know where you could potentially work. You've got contact information that is relevant to that job and that company. So go forth, make contact. It's time for first impressions. Now, I know that sort of what you're going to say and how you're going to say it can be a bit of a challenge at this phase. So I have this little template here for you. I don't expect you to use it verbatim. I've sort of, as you can see, filled it in like a Mad Libs here. If you want to take a screenshot, I'll give you a moment to do that. I'm not actually going to read through the letter because that's a little bit boring, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. What I've pulled is some of the information that we've done in all of the steps up until step 4. What do you want to do? Where do you want to do it? What type of platform you found this individual on, and you're contacting them for what reason. Try and get a face-to-face meeting with this individual. Some people will flip you right over to a recruiter or someone else. If you can, that's great. If not, that's great too. Phone calls are just as valid as a face-to-face meeting if that's easier for the individual that you're connecting to. Suggest a face-to-face, but go with whatever's easiest for them and try and make it easy for them in scheduling time with you. With regards to follow-up on this, I like to give people at least 7 to 10 days to sort of absorb and action this before I follow up. And if you follow up, just forward this message back to them. Just saying, hey, I know you're busy, just wanted to check back in to see if you maybe had time next week. And then if they still haven't followed up on the second try, give it one more try, but maybe give them about 20 days. They might be super busy with something else. If you don't hear back from them after 3 attempts, then it's safe to say they're probably not in a position to be able to help you right now, and that's okay. They don't mean you ill will. They've just got other stuff going on. You've got some other names to contact, so keep your contacts going. When you do send this through, don't forget to attach your resume to the body of the email. Add your phone number and email address underneath your name, but make sure it shows up on your resume and the body of your email. Sometimes resumes don't get forwarded, so it can be a bit frustrating to try and get in contact with people. And that brings us to step number 5, which is really scary, but you sort of got the skills that you need. People will start to respond back to your messages. And while you're waiting, you can go back and pick up maybe some of the other companies you learned about while you were following some of the companies that you were researching and generate some more contacts and some more outreach there. But as people start to respond to you, get back to them, make it easy to connect to you. Start to prepare a list of questions on what you want to ask them. And you've got some of that already building. Now, what you don't want to do, 100% of networking is the value of these meetings, and that comes from the questions that you ask. You don't want to go in there and just regurgitate here's what I know about your company. Blah. Well, that's great. That person already knows that and more about that company, and you're really not impressing them by regurgitating basics. That's not to say you shouldn't research and have a good understanding of what that company does and what you could do there. But, announcing to that person that you know that company's revenue is $2.2 billion, you're not impressing anyone. So in order to pick questions that are impressive, you need to understand what you want. So I'm going to give you just a few questions to ask yourself so you can understand what you want and you can build questions for the person that you're networking from there. What types of people do you work best with? Do you work best with sort of a collaborative team? Are you best more as an introvert on your own? Maybe a combination thereof. If you understand the type of people that you work best with, you'll understand what questions to ask your networkee about the type of teams they work with and how their companies are structured. Where do you get the most work done? Are you studying at home? Are you sort of in a crowd? You need interaction? Is the TV on? This will give you questions about the work environment that you can ask, so you know what you want. Find out if that's what's at the environment that this person works at. Next, what have you done that you're proud of? Think through, not the achievements so you can necessarily rattle them off, but you should have them there. But think through those achievements, how you were recognized, and what sort of support you were given in order to get to those achievements. Those are great questions you can ask them about the type of support, motivation that they get at their company to help them do a great job. And then finally, think through what gets you excited about the prospect of working at that company and ask them questions about if that stuff really goes on or if you're just sort of projecting. 2 things I need to make sure that you ask every person you network with. What's the best way to apply to a job at your company? And what other companies should I be looking at? Are there any folks you can introduce me to? Make sure you ask those 2 questions and a combination of some of your resource, support, and environment questions, and you'll walk away with a lot of learning about that employer, and you'll have walked away with a very impressed networkee because you've come in with your intention, you've got a base foundation and a good understanding, you're prepared, you're reaching out and making contact to the right people, and you're making connections with real questions that are going to pay off for you. So we are well over the end of time here, and I'm sorry for running late to begin with, but I'm glad we got through at least today's topic. I'm checking this chat window now, and I'm not seeing any chat questions, so I apologize if there was a technical glitch that's causing me to not see your questions. But you are welcome to email them to me at info@inspirepeople.co at any time. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you all again next week. For next week's show, I have not decided what the topic is yet, so I am open to influence. If you have any specific topics you want to go through in mind, feel free to send them through. And thanks again for joining today. Have a wonderful rest of your week and go out and get yourself some really interesting networking appointments. Take care. Bye-bye.